Best darn day of the week. Here we go.
Yes, it is.
It is time for How to CPCU. How's it going, Heather?
It's going fantastic. A little bit of
Yep.
spring rain here in Bloomington and got my flowers watered for me. So good day.
Life's good. Life's good.
Yeah.
It's like 85 here in Jersey. It's like
Yeah.
it's San Diego. Now, if we can just keep it like that, we'll be all right. For anyone who's unfamiliar with this program, this is How to CPCU. I'm Matt. This is Heather. We are put on by volunteers of the CPCU Society. We bring you information about what the society is about, how it's structured, who all the muckety mucks and people are that you need to know and network with, and make sure that you ingratiate yourself to so that they can help you out along the way. No, but seriously, we get to introduce you to the fantastic organization and the people that is the CPCU Society. So that's what we do every week at 5:30 Eastern on Wednesday. As usual, like, comment, subscribe, share, notification bell, retweet, help get this out there. Let all of the people in the insurance industry who are not part of the Cool Kids Club know why they should be part of this Cool Kids Club. So, and hopefully we can also bring them some information that can help them as well. So, we have two awesome guests today. We're talking about something that, how should I put this? I have really good relationships with some of these people, and I joust with some of these people on a daily basis as a broker. So there's kind of mixed bag for me. But you know what? It's in the damn name of the designation and the society. So these are kind of important people that we're going to be talking to today. So we are joined by Sue Snyder and Dar Beachy from the Underwriting Interest Group. How are you both doing?
Great.
Doing good, Matt. Doing good. Thank you.
Awesome. Look, Heather, what is your understanding of the enigma that is the underwriters that are part of the CPCU Society?
Well, a little over a month and a half ago now, I joined the underwriting world. I joined that enigma. So
Yeah.
I
Welcome,
have
Heather.
apparently crossed over to the side of the business that I know that I've always in my past experiences really relied on underwriters to be a great resource and help because I'm a claims girl at heart, and claims and underwriting are like the yin and the yang of that world. So I know their role is crucial, and what they bring to the society. I mean, it's like that foundational of everything. We all learned a ton about underwriting when we got our CPCU designation, but we got to remember it's not just for underwriters though too. It's for everyone that's involved in our industry. So, but yes, I would say, my experience in the underwriting world has always been, it's been an interesting one. I've, as a claims person, I go back to them, I'm like, why did you write this risk? What is going on? Those would be my moments of frustration at times when you look at underwriting. But happy to have you guys here today. We really just want to talk about your interest group and where you're going. And, I know you've had a combination that's happened of the two functions in underwriting. So going to give you guys the floor to talk about that a little bit first, and then we'll just hit you and pepper you with a few questions.
Yeah. So if no one is familiar with Sue or with you, Dar, go ahead, Sue, you first. Just give us 1 minute. Who are you? Where do you work? What do you kind of do on a day-to-day basis? And then how did you get involved in the underwriting interest group?
Yeah, so I am right now, currently, I'm a commercial consultant nationwide and the chair of the underwriting interest group. And goodness, I love the underwriting interest group. I think I've been involved probably almost 8 years in the interest group and got involved from what it's all about: relationships. Someone's on and asked to join and got involved in the underwriting interest group, but because it's all about the people. And underwriting interest group, one of the very best, and just a great group of relationships and people, like my partner in crime, Dar.
All right. Let's see. Product owner at State Farm. working on modernizing some of our systems. And I've really been in underwriting this entire time since coming into State Farm in 08, and in a different capacity now. But once an underwriter, always an underwriter. And as I work more in now the systems enterprise technology world, I'm trying to bring people on, and eventually I'm like, you know what, you could be an underwriter too, just like me. If I could be one, you could be one. I got involved in the UWIG, I think it was back in 15. I got my CPCU in 12. And then after a couple years, I'm like, I want to give back. I want to help someone. I had a great opportunity to learn. And now how can I help? How can I volunteer? What are some opportunities I have? And so a friend helped me to found out with the Underwriting Interest Group, and now here I am helping to lead this great group. And so it's been an honor to serve with Sue and everything. So we're just trying to enlarge our opportunity that we have with the UWIG.
Awesome. So Heather, you're in the club. If you try and leave, they're gonna drag you right back in.
I know.
That's right.
I want you in the club.
So Heather mentioned y'all have gone through kind of like a combination as of late. What does that look like?
So last year when they were combining all the interest groups, we were the underwriting interest group was mainly a commercial lines focus, but it made perfect sense to bring in personal lines as well. So it was called PLIG. So the personal lines with the underwriting interest group combined to make the underwriting interest group. So ours was a very easy transition, and it's good to have, because a lot of us, I've been a personal lines underwriter, I've been a commercial lines underwriter, I've been both commercial and personal manager. It's great just to underwriters. Hey, we're nice people too, but our underwriters, so it's a great combination, and it's worked really well.
Awesome. What's it been like for you, Dar?
Yeah, it's so I had served for about 3 years, and then a couple years stepped away, and I came back, and I'm like, yeah, I like working in the underwriting world, and then I realized that we're going to take and combine the two. And so it was interesting as we started to merge, how do we do that, right? Without losing that personal lines aspect and that business lines aspect. And so we have 2 leads on the committee, one that's going to take more of the personal lines, one that's going to be more on the business lines. So we still have some of that just, separation, but we're one committee now. And so it's working out really well. I think, what do we have? 22 committee members on the committee right now for the underwriting interest group. Wow. Sue and I were just talking before. We actually have 8 that just came on in the last year. So, wow.
A lot of new ideas, fresh ideas. It's good.
That's fantastic. What's your experience been with the underwriting interest group, Heather? Has your path ever crossed before?
I know that in the past, like claims and underwriting as interest groups have combined together to design webinars or to do, inter-risk sessions and everything. So, because there's just a natural intersection in between those two pieces of the business. And it's always been a great experience because I've got to work with some fantastic people. And I know a lot of people that are because I'm with the claims interest group still, even though I don't even work in the claims world anymore, but they do, I know that many of the people that are on our committee and many of the people that are part of our interest group have done some collaboration with those groups. And because of the true collaborative nature of the insurance world in general now, there's those silo walls are starting to starting to fall down in between these various business areas. Knowing and understanding each other's business, I think, is so much more important today than it used to be. Underwriting used to be here's their bubble, and claims was their bubble, and agency was their bubble over here, and never the twain shall meet until they got frustrated with each other for some reason. Today, it's more about what information and data do we feed in between these various areas to be able to best serve the customer of today and the customer of the future. So would appreciate you guys' thoughts on that and how that collaborative nature is really evolving, especially since COVID now, you know.
Yeah, we are working together with a lot of teams, even a lot on claims, because you're right, that's just a natural fit. But agency and brokerage, we're working on, the relationship there, because how can you prepare a better submission? What misnomers does one group have about the other group? And it is just like you said, it's all about, the collaboration and working together. Risk management, that ties in as well. So you're right. The experience now is not just, like you said, siloed. It's all together.
Yeah, I would agree with that. See, there's, so much of it comes down now to the customer. And if we all have the customer as, this is the person that we need to take care of, right? And so, Heather, it kind of goes back to your comment, like, you're in claims, you're like, why did we bring this client in? There are times in underwriting when we have the same question. Who made this, decision to bring them in? Well, now that we have them in, they're our customer, right? So we have to do the best thing for them, right? And so you're starting to see some of those, what I would call silos, right? Starting to break down. There's still, a lot of people that kind of still want to hold on to those silos. All right, I'm an underwriter. That's still who I am. You know what I mean? And so that can be a struggle to release some of that control or hold over a specific piece of the business. I think underwriting, claims, agency, actuarial, I think are the three main pillars to insurance. And if you have at least two of those, that's huge to understanding how insurance works.
Oh yeah, definitely. We did with the agents and brokers group, we did a collaborative, a couple of webinars with Leah Heller from y'all's interest group, and that was really good. It was about finding a way for brokers and underwriters to better understand where they're coming from, right? Brokers have the not all of us, but many of us have the consistent problems of just, trying to throw whatever information that we can out there with as little effort as possible so that an underwriter can come up with a number. I think underwriters likewise are baffled by brokers and some of the stuff that constitutes a submission. So I thought that was a really fantastic session where we could kind of, we could get to understand each other. It was kind of like Festivus. We get to air the grievances a little bit and, kind of like understand where each other was coming from. We do have a question from my co-host for Sell Like a CPCU, Precious Walton. And she said, are you able to be a part of multiple interest groups and do you have to work in the discipline to be part of the IG? I believe, I think the first one is, I think you can be involved in multiple interest groups. I'm not sure if you can be on the leadership team for multiple interest groups. I could be wrong there. But I think
you're right. You can be on the committee of one, but yeah. But
involved in other ones,
right.
Just on.
Yes, and you can help. Yes, we'll take as much help. But on the committee of one.
And so to that question, do y'all have non-underwriters in your group, or do you tar and feather them and throw them out the door?
And I think, no, you can't. No, I think it's good if someone's exploring. Granted, is the foundation of the underwriters, yes, to get industry trends, but I would join an interest group too to see if maybe you're interested in that as a profession. Learn from people that are engaged and passionate about it, and see if that's something you may be interested in. So. We would take, there's other skills than just underwriting. You learn leadership skills. You learn how to run meetings. You learn how to present proposals. There's so much more than just the great thing of underwriting.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing to add to that, Matt, is, as I was coming into the interest group, I felt like I was a really good underwriter, right? I would, in my mind, I was the best underwriter. And as I got involved in this, there are so many more opportunities in the underwriting world that I had no clue, right? And so I was just on the personal line side, and there is just so many opportunities to learn. And so, I've gotten now that experience in underwriting. I'm able to help now those that come on and help us, right, that aren't from the underwriting background, able to help bring them along in the process as well. And then we can really try to grab some of their knowledge that they have to broaden our skills as well. So we can hopefully learn together from what they bring. And like Sue said, we have a number of people that are on here, those that are just, more on the underwriting side, more in leadership and underwriting. All that is very important to building out our IG.
Awesome.
No, so I'm always interested in innovations, trends, and emerging risk right now. And I know that you guys live at the forefront of a lot of those particular issues in our industry. So what would you say, in your opinion, when you're looking at this from the underwriting lens, what are some of those emerging markets, emerging risks that insurance is starting to break into now? Or maybe what are some of those technological innovations that are coming that are really going to evolve and adapt the role of an underwriter today?
So Dar, you just did a webinar. He led a great webinar priming Dar up for parametrics.
I did, yeah. We just had our parametric webinar. And I think a lot of that, Heather, goes to some of the climate changes we're seeing with the higher amount of wildfires that we're seeing, some of the hurricane with the flooding, the drastic change in temperatures, just like what Texas had now. And so how can we provide opportunities for protection? Maybe not on a grand scale, but more on a, hey, first dollar, help them get back on their feet as they look to their indemnification policy. And so, and as we go through more of this climate change, are we going to keep seeing more of that, right? And so if that's the case, then how are some ways that we can provide protection for that, what I call first dollar, helping them with some maybe deductibles, evacuation expenses, right? So luckily I live in Illinois. Well, I don't know. Yet I live in Illinois, right? We don't have hurricanes come through here, right? We don't have wildfires. Well, maybe a fire might, start on fire once in a while. So I'm not having to evacuate. But if I'm in, a coastal town in Florida and there's a hurricane coming, I gotta bail, right? I could be gone, you know what I mean? And so there's expenses to, medication and food and lodging. So, how can we provide some type of protection for that coverage for those issues? That's one of them. Another thing I think of is what's to come with our vehicles. And I'm also involved in our local chapter with careers and insurance. And I talk to college students. And I say, how many of you, when you have kids, will they even have a driver's license and drive? It's interesting. They all say, well, yeah, they're all going to drive. That's how many years from now will they be driving? And so now, how do we insure those vehicles? You know what I mean? If the neighbors and I want to have one autonomous vehicle and share it, how do we insure that? Yeah, I have no clue right now.
That's a big one. Those autonomous vehicles, huge.
Yeah.
And so, from that standpoint, in terms of what might be coming down the pike or emerging risk and things like that, is that something where you are tailoring webinars and articles and things like that around those, simply asking the question, or is there other insights that are being brought into that conversation? What does the day-to-day kind of content or activity look like of the interest group to that end?
So we have submitted one of the sessions for the InterRisk annual seminar is emerging issues. And Billy Morrow's a fantastic speaker, and he likes to talk on all these emerging issues. So we have that, and it's actually, it can happen to us, low severity, but low frequency, but high severity risks. We have that. We do have articles on climate change. I mean, and then we did a webinar that, Heather, you were asking about technology, drones, using drones in underwriting and for inspection. I mean, there's that whole world has opened up as well. So, I mean, there's so much going on, more on predictive analytics, determining, the cost of risk and can you write this risk? There's just a lot going on. Cybersecurity, writing cyber risks. Cyber's huge now. COVID, business interruption coverage. The list goes on. There's so much. See, it's pretty exciting. It's not just underwriting.
And one thing to add on to that, like Sue was mentioning, as part of this underwriting interest group, right? Our job is to really go out and find those people that have the knowledge. Now, obviously, there's people on our committee that have a lot of knowledge, right? But we also know people that have that knowledge, right? Or know of someone, right? And so our one of our responsibilities is to find those people, bring them in for those webinars, bring them in for an annual conference session, bring them in to write an article, right? And so that's part of this. And so that's really helped me to know more people, and maybe be a little more brave with asking, hey, can you help us? And so I think that's very important for all of not just Sue and I, right, as helping to lead the interest group, but all of the people in the committee to, hey, keep your ears open, right? Who's out there that's an expert, and bring them in. So like you said, Matt, we can bring them in to help educate on these emerging risks that are coming. Cyber being one of them.
Yep, huge one.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys have sounds like you have a lot of activity going on as an interest group. If you're already rolling with a lot of articles that you've put out there, as well as your webinars and everything, that you've got the submission for Into Risk this year, which would be super interesting as well. Is there, I know Precious asked this question and I probably answered it with my answer, but you guys welcome anybody and everybody into your interest group because, those diversity of experiences is only going to help to broaden the base of maybe the contacts that you have with bringing in those expert speakers on different topics. And once again, as the world becomes more and more collaborative and those silos just continue to fall down, you sometimes have to reach into the other worlds to be able to find the right kind of speaker for a particular topic, because our world cross so much more than they used to, and especially because of data. And I know we've had some people talk in the past on the show about predictive analytics and data analytics as well, but what is really coming in that space right now for underwriting, and how is that going to shape that role of an underwriter in the future? Because I know there's obviously a lot of concern, even over in the claims world as well, that, hey, my job's going to go away. They don't need me anymore because they have AI or robotics process engineering or, some computer that can do all these things that I think that I used to do. So what would you say, in your opinion, is the things that people need to be focused in on and learning about today to stay relevant in their world?
You want to go first, Sue?
You go first.
All right.
You got it, Dar.
So,
I can add too.
So I remember, Heather, when I was hired as an underwriter, right? I was told I was paid to make decisions. Mm-hmm. And I still think that we are going to need underwriters to make decisions, right? And so some of those decisions that were made was more like a gut instinct, right? A gut feel. And so how can we move away from an underwriter that's been doing it for 20 years, that he or she just kind of just knows, right? Based on looking at a few data points and where they live and what kind of vehicle they drive and how many, okay, yeah. But now can we take that data, right? And if someone is a true underwriter and knows how to match that price to risk using that data, right, to come up with an even more informed decision. And like I used to tell my agents that who I worked with, right, and I've been an agent before, right, and so Matt, I kind of know what that's like to sit in a chair and talk to a client and give them bad news. Nobody likes to do that. Nobody, right? And so an underwriter is really that go-between between the agent, broker, and the client and the company, right? And so to be able to make those informed decisions that would help the company, but also keep all the other clients that are there, right? And even work with the current ones is so vital and important. And if we have that data, right, to help make those decisions, it's going to be huge, right? Especially as we go forward and more of that data is there for us to use.
Yeah, we have, I mean, definitely we use tons of data and predictive analytics. And I think it definitely, like Dar said, it just helps you make an informed decision. But I think part, and probably the most part of being a great underwriter, is the relationships. And I think you lose or win relationships selling the no. You know, underwriters cannot always say yes. I wish you could say yes to every risk, but then why would you need to? You know, it's choosing the risk and trusting, partnering with the agents because they're your eyes and ears. Yeah. Analytics can tell you a lot, but two gas stations can be different. They can be on the same street, but they have different owners, different management. There's so much to take into consideration. You need, like Dar said, kind of the intermediary just between, you know, the company and the broker and just working together with the relationships.
Yeah, no, that's I think those are really good points because there's like machinery just in general, whether it's AI or whatnot, it's really good right now at well-defined, narrow, objectives. Whereas underwriters in a lot of cases are not making a decision that's based off of one metric or even a couple of metrics. I mean, you're looking at essentially a portfolio of risk, even for a small commercial risk or even something as small as like, a home or an auto risk, personal. And you have to look at the entirety of that. And so, yeah, I guess you could come up with a machine that does, +1 for this and -1 for that. And if the score is over, a certain amount, then we say yes. If it's under, then we say no. But truthfully, you end up losing out on a lot of things that at the face of it might look riskier than they really are. A perfect example being, a small commercial risk that just had a fire in a building and the building got rebuilt with, all brand new current, safety measures and things like that, right? Those kind of things aren't always right there on the face of it, especially if you're having just a piece of tech or software look at it. You mentioned that there was a lot of you have 8 new people who have come in. What is that attributed to? Is it newer folks being hired and getting their CPCUs and coming into the IG? Is it folks that just as soon as the merger happened, all of a sudden they were alerted to being able to take a leadership role? Where does that really come from with you guys?
Well, see, Matt, Sue just really laid down the hammer when she took over, and no.
Yeah, that's me.
Get to work.
Yeah. I think I'll put a plug in for the IG road shows because we've got a lot of interest coming in through those IG road shows. And when they sign up and put that they're interested in a group, we've called out to them. So I think I would say we've gotten like 4 from that, which is great. And I think word of mouth, as the network spreads, word of mouth spreads and, hey, come join us.
That's awesome.
People from companies, because we have, I was talking about relationships and companies, but we have people from ISO, from FICO, from NCCI, but the companies, and then you have a friend that works at your companies. We've got, I don't know, like 10 companies represented. So a lot of different, exposures and a lot of different companies reach out.
That's actually another question that I have. So in addition to the underwriters and you guys being open to having outside folks in, do you have like the product development people that are also in there? Because it would make sense to me if the product dev people were involved with the underwriters or vice versa, because ultimately, I mean, y'all are the ones that have to understand the stuff and understand the, the tolerances and basically the range of acceptable risk that's built into some of these products. Are they intermingled with you guys and taking an active role in the IG?
That's actually where I've been the last couple of years, Matt, was in that development. So I'm an example of my expertise being able to be brought in there. I want to go back to your last question, Matt, was, why are people, I think they're looking for opportunity, right? And so, if you think about what we've gone through the last year, a lot of us have kind of been stuck in maybe some little bedroom offices, right? And where are those opportunities? We're not getting it so much in the office with each other. And so, okay, now how can I look to help, right? I can do that in my bedroom office or living room, wherever you're sitting, right? And so I think that's another reason why people are looking for opportunities to help, and get some engagement and interaction with others. And so I think that's probably part of what we're dealing with as well.
Fantastic.
That's great. Yeah, it's a whole new world that COVID opened up for us, and some of the greatest benefits of that have been the ability to be able to build these broad networks of relationships with people through activities just like this, through the IG road shows, through the fact that chapters are now sharing their meetings with all the other chapters out there with the master calendar. It's like that perfect storm of, hey, we just got on board and we just started riding the wave because we knew as an industry we've done that for a long time, and we just kept rolling with it. And I think that was probably one of the greatest things that I saw come out of all of this, is that the fact that we have all just jumped on board and said, we're not going to let the fact that we have distance and space stop us from continuing to learn. In fact, learning and growth and development, because of everything that has changed in our lives, it might look a little different today, but we're doing it at such a rapid pace because there's no other choice. You just got to do it that way, right? So, yeah.
Yep. One thing I wanted to comment on, and I was telling Sue before we met, with how the committee works together. And so this kind of goes along with the whole COVID-19 thing, is we had one of our guys that was Mike Povich, very involved with our webmaster, and he was very involved. Well, guess what? He's now a commander, site leader of a vaccine clinic, and so his availability has been reduced to very little time. Right, he's very busy. My wife actually is involved with that too, and so I understand. And so we've had somebody that has come in and basically replaced him and jumped on board and taken some of his duties, and it's just so neat to see that interaction, right, where somebody's struggling, I can't do this so much, and somebody else just comes right in and helps out. Now, I think some of that goes back to, hey, how can we help each other? And so we've heard a lot of that the last year. Yeah. So it's just been neat to see, that's part of that. It goes on, right? The next person jumps in, next in line, next up, or whatever the term is, right? And so it opens some more opportunities for other people then to serve. So it's just been really cool then to see Kim now come in and doing a lot of what Mike was doing.
Yeah. Rick, one of my New Jersey members, said, Sue's just so persuasive. That's why all the new people are in there.
No, he does a great job.
And then also, Precious echoing kind of the interconnectivity piece of it. I think, COVID has necessitated a lot of us, really trying to, I guess, adapt and overcome. And in some cases, like pre-COVID, if we lived in a silo, we found out that we couldn't live in that silo because, as isolated as we were then, during COVID, we were, isolated to the nth degree now, and that just wasn't going to fly. We weren't going to be effective long term. So I think we're also seeing, and I would love your opinions on this. So the market effects of, and specific to the insurance industry, the market effects of COVID, we just started to see in 2020. And so I think all of those downstream, like the next set of dominoes to fall, they will continue to fall, not necessarily in a bad way, but I think that change is going to continue to filter through the industry. Is that something you're seeing, or do you think that, once life kind of gets back to somewhat normal, that maybe we'll end up reverting and this kind of like survival instinct will go away?
I think for, companies, we've had to make sure we're more efficient. This has caused us to be more efficient, which is better for the members. I can never tell someone that price is not important, because it always is a part of the equation, and we have to be more efficient. And I think this has just caused us to look. I mean, can we do more Zoom meetings? Do we have to travel as much? Can we, it's always looking at expenses, and from an underwriting side as well, but this allows us to, COVID has allowed us to see that, hey, maybe people can work from their homes, maybe these Zoom meetings instead of traveling, because I used to travel quite a bit, and Zoom meetings, this does work. You can make it work. And I think it's working for CPCU too, like you were talking about, even involved with the chapters. Can underwriting provide speakers for chapters, and can we listen to other people's meetings? It's been good. Hasn't been easy, but it's been good.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Dar?
I would, so I'm a people person, right? I miss being able to be in a big room together at a conference, being able to talk to each other, see each other. And so, there's a lot of me that would like to go back to where that was, right? Yeah. And say, you know what, this never happened. But I think what COVID is going to cause is for us to be a lot more flexible. I remember, and so you might remember, some of our first UWIG meetings when I joined in 2015-16 is we were talking about, should we have a phone line open so that people, if they can't come, could they join us? You know what I mean? And we're like, well, I don't know. Will anybody do that on a Saturday morning from their home? Well, guess what? That is here to stay, right? And that's a good thing in that it allows more people to be engaged. Yeah. Right? Does that make sense? If something comes up and I can't go to the annual conference this year, but guess what? I can still join our board meeting, right? Maybe I can watch a few of the sessions. So it allows us to stay engaged, but yet still have that option to see each other. And it's going to be interesting as we move back in, how do people respond to that, right? So how will you respond with being in a room with 50 people and you can see their faces? Yeah. Right? So
or 50 people in person and then 50 people on the Zoom meeting on the TV at the same time will also be interesting.
Yes, exactly. But I think it opens up so much more opportunity, right? And it allows us to be flexible. I remember when I was in underwriting doing my work, and I'm thinking, why do I have to come into work every day? I can easily do this from my home, right? And probably be more efficient because I may not be as distracted, right? Yep. And so I think we're starting to see some of that ability to be more flexible. And, how does that relate now to underwriting, right? And in some of our processes.
Yeah. Tony Kanya saying he misses stopping by New York and I think he meant New York and New Jersey area to see Matt, Rick, and the rest of the crowd. I don't know what you're talking about, Tony. A couple of those evenings were kind of blurry. So
Tony, yes.
I don't exactly remember that, but what are your thoughts? Do you think some of this stuff persists?
I was going to say what you guys talked about there with the people interaction, and then this now shift to potentially like hybrid style interaction that we're going to be moving into. for people to have optionality and flexibility, and in the world of being able to connect with others. I think that there's going to have to be a whole new form of emotional intelligence that people are going to have to learn to be able to relate to those people who may work in those, may be out there in the hybrid world from the inter-risk conference and maybe watching, because how do you make sure that those people are having at least close to the same experience that the people in the room are having? You have to evolve yourself to be able to make that connection, and we've had to work on that some, because I know some of us in the past have worked on teams where we got people that are kind of spread out, and then we have some people who might be concentrated in one area, and then the people that are in the room for the meeting, and the people who are on the call or on the, on the video conference call for the other part of the meeting. Sometimes they feel left out of those side conversations that happen, or the, the little chat moments that happen in between. But it's going to take a lot of hard work by all of us to make sure that we up our game when it comes to our emotional intelligence, to understand what people need on both sides of that world, and how do you get those audiences to interact with each other too. That's a big question that I really have, is because that's where we're going, I think, is the hybrid kind of world, where we're going to have some people sometimes in and sometimes out, and how do you keep people connected that way?
But Heather, will that allow us to bring more people into some of our interest groups that may not be sponsored to travel, or feel like, I can't do this. I can't get away, right? And so will this now be able to offer more opportunities to others to be involved? And if so, then I think that's partly on, Sue and I and other IG leaders, members, to really be that voice for the various IG groups. I mean, if you think about, putting on an annual conference and putting on webinars and getting articles, that's a lot of it driven by the IGs. And so it's very important for us to be engaged in that.
Yep. Yeah, that group collaborative process, I think, is going to improve, because I think there were a lot of people that were like reticent to change the way things were going, because it's that thing where it's like, well, everything's been working the way we've been doing it. The grass might be greener, it might be brown. Like, we don't know what it is. So, all of these technological tools, I think a lot of people, it was like some were early adopters and they were techie kind of people, and like, the Google Docs and, shared collaboration and editing software and stuff like that. A number of people were open to it. And then a number of people were like, look, the typewriter still works for me, right? And like the whiteout and stuff, I really don't have to worry about it anymore, But now, a lot of those people have been thrown into an environment where they are forced to use the technology if they want to collaborate, if they don't truly want to be, isolated. And so I think there's a positive that can come out of it, where, when we do eventually get back to whatever normal looks like, right? It will be a normal where a lot of people have, one, gained a lot of skills that they normally wouldn't have, and two, there's going to be a lot more opportunity in terms of how you run an event, right? Like, I mean, just the fact, like, that you all were thinking, I'm like, man, the next annual meeting, how are we going to do this? And I was like, immediately, I'm like, I need a big wall with a bunch of people that are on the Zoom meeting, and then I need like 4 laptops or workstations where people can just randomly walk up and get into the Zoom meeting that are in the actual in-person meeting, and like talk to the people on the Zoom, and just keep like, rotating through, like something like that, where you just can bring those two worlds together and legitimately make that distance zero, and make those people feel included, even if they can't be in the room. Which, interestingly enough, I mean, like, you talked about cyber at the beginning, that creates a very big tectonic shift, or at least a magnification of risk that prior we understood as, an underwriting community and as a broker community. And I think all of these things, I mean, you experience your first Zoom meeting bombing, and immediately you're like, all right, the world's a little bit different now.
That is true.
Never ever post your Zoom meetings on Twitter. Don't post a link to your Zoom meetings on Twitter.
Yeah.
You will learn a very hard lesson if you do.
So I mean, to that end, what are you guys seeing as, I think a lot of people, when they think of COVID and they think of risk, the risks that are changing, it's one, whether communicable disease is covered, okay, is the biggest one. That's the most immediate. The second one is probably the cyber piece. What else do you think is going to come out of this? Are there other types of risk that are going to be either brand new or ones that we've previously had our finger on and now they're going to get magnified or amplified?
I do think viruses and that is going to be magnified. I mean, looking at that and all this stir came up with business income coverage, with COVID, is it covered? And now there's new forms being written. I mean, I think that's where who knows what can come next? I mean, aliens, just don't.
They exist. There was a data dump. Apparently there's been UFOs, and it completely got glossed over because everyone was sick.
You just never know.
Yeah,
the weather changes, I mean, there's so much.
Sue, what's the rate on abduction insurance? That's what I want to know. I'm going to get into selling alien abduction.
Pretty high. Yeah, go to your excess surplus markets.
I think the answer is just don't live anywhere in Nevada, right? Like that's where Area 51 is. Just don't live in Nevada. You'll be all right. Yeah. What's your thoughts, Dar?
And I think we have to be open, right? And so I know when I was in auto underwriting, I moved into the innovation space, and I was thinking, no, we can't do that. Wait, what? No, you do I have all the data? Do I know who the drivers are? And so there may be some things that are going to be part of the unknown, right? And that's what our job is over the next number of years, is to figure out what some of those risks are going to be. There may be some risks that we don't even know that are out there yet, right? And so how do we start to acknowledge them, right? The other thing is, how do we get plugged in with our actuary partners, right? To think about rating some of this stuff, right? Is there going to be that appetite for them to learn this type of stuff? You know what I mean? We might be able to underwrite it, but can we rate it? And so I think that's a lot of what we're seeing with the repercussions from COVID, with all the losses. How could we have built a policy to cover some of the losses, and then it goes back to how would we have rated it, and would anybody have bought it? Well, now I think just people are going to be buying this kind of type of coverage to protect against what we've seen over the last year, and it's been huge. Some of the losses that for the most part businesses have had to endure, and so we really have to keep our ears open to new risk and be able to identify them as we move forward. Yeah.
Rick making the comment, hold on, let me get the policy file out of the cabinet. And always remember, when you're putting the papers into the policy file, it's not the 3-hole punch, you need the 2-hole punch so that the two things can go over and cross over.
And is that from AWS, Rick, or is that the actual physical file?
Let me call Iron Mountain and get the actual physical file back from 1965 when we originally wrote this risk, And also Tony making a very good point. The virtual side of this that we're going to see persist into the future could be a really good recipe for, younger, newer CPCUs, not just younger, but newer CPCUs that might not have employer support, being able to keep them into the mix at a low cost and a low friction point until they get to the point where kind of they can fund their own involvement and things like that. So I think that's also another
great point.
Yeah, another fantastic point.
Exactly. And something, Matt, I'll just add on to that is that younger generation, they're probably a little more ready for that, more virtual, you know what I mean? Because I remember talking to my kids, and I'm talking to them, I'm like, you're not talking to them. You know what I mean? It's more punching in and that kind of stuff, where they would be more comfortable with that kind of environment. And so that's a great point that Tony makes, to bring them in on that virtual side until they can get to that point where they build up in their career to get
Definitely.
that sponsorship, hopefully.
Definitely. Heather, I'll give you the last question here before we wrap up. What's the last thing on your mind you think people would like to know about the underwriting interest group?
I think it's really more of a philosophical comment, because I tend to wax a little philosophical with interest groups, especially. I just don't think we as an industry, or we as a society, or we as interest groups have the luxury of saying anymore why we're not doing something is because we've always done it this certain way. We don't have that luxury anymore. In order for us to move and transform and be where we want to be, and we're going to have to continually try to adapt how we reach people, how we make connections with people, how we build those relationships with people, through our interest groups, through the society, through our industry in general. But I'd appreciate to know what you guys think about that particular subject, and what the interest groups can do to best facilitate getting people off of that rock that they live on a lot of times, because we've always done it this way. It's my least favorite answer to a question, by the way.
Yeah, I don't like that answer either. I think working through and change resiliency it's so important, and it's such a benefit. And just talking to Dar about how he handles things, or talking to you, Heather, or you, Matthew, just talking and working. But yeah, things are going to have to be different. I think COVID and this has forced it out that things can be done different. And if we don't see that, we're not going to be successful, and I think it's really important to realize that, and that change is good. Yeah.
So I kind of have some sayings and everything. One of those is variety is the spice of life, right? And so I'm always looking to see, okay, how can we change it? How can we make it better? How can we move our course a little bit? I'm involved a lot with college students, right? And so I think of them as, hey, that's our next generation of workers, right? And if we are not able to move past, we've always done it that way, we're not going to be able to bring on more talent, right? Or not more, but new talent, right? To replace, let's be honest, we all want to retire soon. Soon being a relative term, but we have to be ready to be able to move how we do business, right? Because they're waiting, right? They're coming out of college. They're looking for that next job, and if we can show them what insurance can offer them, whether that be through an interest group, through getting their CPCU, talking to a class, saying, hey, there's a lot of opportunity in insurance, right? And so I think that's so important as we look to bring in that next talent.
I agree, and it's collaborating with the other interest groups in the society as a whole. There's so many different viewpoints, so much to learn. If we don't keep learning, look at where Amazon's come, it's changed the retail market for sure. Yeah. And we've got to keep going.
Yeah, we're always, insurance is always kind of like late to move just from its very nature, right? Like we're conservative. There's a reason why, NASA space shuttles use programming language from 10, 15 years ago. It's because they know where the bugs are and how to fix them and things like that, right? Like new does come with a unique set of challenges. I think hopefully what we end up taking from this in all aspects of life, underwriting, risk management, brokerage, claims, actuarial, everything, right? I hope that we end up taking at least a small amount of curiosity about how things could be different, right? And not just giving that, this is the way it's always been, so this is the way we're going to do it. No. Like, you can pay homage to the fact that this is the way it's always been and still entertain the idea that, all right, well, what if we do a little beta test over here if we do it this way? Or if we do a little beta test over here and we do it this way? There is kind of like my former mentor used to call it the Swiss cheese method, right? Like you keep poking holes until you figure out, maybe one of them is actually going to get you through to the other side, So Yeah, no, I think there's definitely some big positives that can come out of it. I want to say thank you for both of you coming here and kind of allowing us and allowing the viewers to gain a little insight into the interest group and whatnot. I am going to pull up your website here really quickly, just so folks can see what it looks like. It is underwriting.ig.cpcusociety.org if y'all want to get some more information about the underwriting interest group. And they are open to people who are not underwriters. So if you're not an underwriter, still you can check it out. And especially if you want to, learn how underwriters think, or if you're looking at a transitional move or possible transitional move in your career, that's also another option. And apparently Sue will give you a job very quickly because she's extremely persuasive. So with that, who do we have next week, Heather? We have Joanne Pickle next week, right?
Joanne.
That is always a good time. I think Mr. Pickle will probably be with her if I know Joanne well. And some very good jokes will be had by all. And refresh my memory. What's Joanne coming on to talk about?
Joanne's going to talk about the society's designations, including CPCU, and how they're beneficial to independent adjusters. That's kind of a little bit of it might be a dark cave that we're going into, because you think about the independent adjuster world and, what's the value to an independent adjuster to get these, these particular designations the society might offer. And Joanne lives in that world day in and day out. It'll be fantastic to be able to talk to her about her experience with that. So
yeah. Wait, we're gonna find out if it's any use to a public adjuster to be able to identify the issues when the underwriter just has to get home at the end of Friday and they're like, whatever, this is the price, we're going to get out of here. We're going to see if there's any value in having a CPCU and understanding when that happens. So with that, I want to thank everyone again. Dar, Sue, thank you very much for taking your time and volunteering for this, and I appreciate it. You did a fantastic job, and definitely stick around. As soon as I pull us all down, you can stick around in the green room, and I can say thank you officially in person without the camera running. But look, everyone who's still watching, or if you've made it to the end of the recording, please like, comment, subscribe, get this out there. Let everyone and anyone know that there's a home for them in the CPCU Society, and specifically within the underwriting interest group, and an absolutely fantastic group of people there, representative of the professionals in the society. So with that, Heather, have a very good evening, and I guess I'll see you back here next week on Wednesday.
We'll be here.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Thank you.
See you. Thank